Inflation headlines are everywhere, which can be bad news for retirees. So in today's video, we are going to talk about the impact of inflation on retirees and 3 ways that you can reduce the impact of inflation on your retirement accounts.
Yeah, that's big. 3 ways to reduce impact with this high inflation environment is going to be key as you enter retirement.
So when we're talking about inflation, what are we talking about?
So we're talking about, Amber, the ever rising price of goods and services. So I want to give an example to our viewers. Here on the chart on the right, you can see the price of admission to a movie theater going back to 1950 through 2020. So you can see, back in 1980 when we were going to the drive-in with our parents to watch Empire Strikes Back, $2.69. Now it's $9 to go to a movie. That's inflation. People want to get paid more to work, and that just causes inflation over time.
So what does inflation normally look like, and where are we today?
Great question, Amber. So today's number, the headline numbers, year over year, housing prices up 20%, cost of goods up 5.4%. This chart shows how it compares historically. So you'll see the dotted line moving left to right there. 2.9% is the average inflation rate going all the way back to 1926. So this is not something we've had to really talk a lot about during the 90s, 2000s, 2010s. We've been below that historical average for a while. So now we see a number like 5.4%, and that sounds really scary. And so we want to talk about how to minimize that impact.
So we can see that we've had this huge jump in inflation. What are the experts saying is causing this?
Good question, Amber. Really 2 causes to the inflation here in 2021. The first is the pandemic, right? The pandemic hit last year, and that suppressed prices on a lot of different things. So when we look at year over year, obviously if prices dropped last year, if they come back to even normal this year, that's going to measure as inflation. So I have another great chart here that shows that. Look at these prices, Amber, for airfare, for example. In 2020, airfare dropped by 27%. No one was flying. This year, as the vaccines come out, prices jumped 25%. That's being measured as inflation year over year. Look at gasoline, right? Gasoline's jumped by almost 50%. No one was driving. No one went to the office. No one took vacations. So again, this is measuring as inflation in 2021. The big one, Amber, is vehicles, right? The chip shortage caused by the pandemic has sent vehicle prices sky high. Used vehicle prices up 45% in 2021.
And this is something that people can see in their everyday lives, right? This is something that actually impacted our family.
Right.
As our son turned 16 this summer, we had to get another car for our family, and we're looking at cars. And that's what we saw.
There was nothing out there.
Supply was really low, and we did find one. The car salesman said, if you don't buy this today, it will be gone tomorrow. And I'm not trying to high pressure you, but that's just the market we're in.
It would have been for sure.
Yeah. So inflation really affects everybody to some degree, but why do retirees have to maybe worry about it even a little bit more?
Well, Amber, good question. I mean, retirees, the definition is you're retired, you're done working, right? Those of us who are still working, maybe we can put in more hours, get overtime to kind of get more income in our daily lives to offset the higher costs we're seeing at the grocery store and the gas pump. Retirees aren't doing that. They're largely living on fixed income. They're going to have Social Security, maybe a pension, maybe a guaranteed income annuity. That's supposed to cover their base monthly budget. But as their base monthly budget is jumping by 5, 6, 8%, it's going to be very difficult for them to get more income in a month. I have another great chart here. All these charts are from BlackRock, by the way, an extremely reputable institution. And they point out here, typically investors de-risk their portfolios the closer they get to retirement. So people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, even they're still working, they might be out there getting 8% on their stock portfolios, 10%. But as people get closer to retirement, in retirement, they get more conservative. They don't want to lose what they have. So they're putting them in more conservative investments, and those more conservative investments have less risk, less reward. So what we're seeing is that retirees are not earning enough on these conservative investments to offset the rising costs of inflation.
So the bad news is we can't do anything about inflation ourselves.
Yeah.
The good news is we can actually teach you how to reduce the impact of inflation on your retirement account. So what are some typical investments that retirees have, and what are the returns that they can expect right now?
Very common is a 10-year treasury bill, right, from the United States government. That's a very common one. This chart shows, Amber, inflation at 5.4%. It shows the 10-year treasury at 1.4. As we record this video today, it's actually 1.5. So if you want to loan the government money for 10 years, they'll pay you 1.5% monthly, a 3-month CD at the bank getting virtually nothing. So this is the problem. Inflation climbing at 5% and you're getting 1.5% on your returns. That's the problem, is there's not enough income to overcome that inflation for retirees.
So this all sounds a little bit scary, but there are things that can be done to minimize inflation. And we want to talk about 3 things today. So what are those?
The first one, Amber, is to examine your cash position. We've been saying for over a year on this channel, you need to have about 6 months of savings. So whatever your budget is each month, times that by 6, that's the correct amount to have in cash. But right now, as of October 2021, Americans have over $4 trillion sitting in cash, earning virtually zero. Okay, if inflation's 5% and you're earning 0, you're eating the full 5%. Okay, so the first thing is examine your cash. Anything over that 6 to 12 months of expenses really should go into something that's going to earn you a return. We mentioned 10-year treasuries. They're at 1.5%. Well, 1.5% is better than 0, right? But that's 10 years, and that might be too long for some people. So I went to bankrate.com this morning before the video and I said, what's a 5-year CD paying? Well, that, as of today, is paying about 1.26%. So we're a little bit less than the treasuries, but we're also talking about 5 years. Another guaranteed safe investment would be a multi-year guarantee annuity issued by an insurance company. As of today, a 5-year annuity will guarantee you 2% per year for the next 5 years. So again, inflation's at 5, you're at 0 in cash. If we can pick up 2%, now the inflation impact, we've almost cut it in half. Right now we're covering at least a portion of that increasing prices, but we haven't taken on any more risk. We still are in cash per se. It's still safe. We're just trying to get some return. So that's the first thing, is examine your cash.
Okay, so anything is better than 0.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so what's the second thing we can do to reduce the impact of inflation?
The second thing I'd advise our viewers to do is search out yield, right? I mean, if you're willing to take a little bit of risk, maybe you have some bonds in your portfolio already, there are things out there that are producing income for the owners of these assets. They're producing dividends and interest payments. For example, I'll show you in this chart, Amber, we have a portfolio by one of our money managers called the Absolute Yield. And this is an example on the left here of $100,000, what the quarterly income would be. We go back to 2018 through now. So you can see about $1,500 per quarter. It's never really dropped too far below that. So if you have $100,000 and you're earning 5 or 6% on dividends and interest, well, now we're almost keeping up with inflation. You can take those dividends and interest to help you now go to the grocery store and pay those higher prices. Now there is some risk to this, right? The $100,000 might go down to 90, might go up to 110. There is some price risk, but consistently those dividends and payouts are averaging 5 to 6%. On the next chart I'll show you here, as of August 31st, that current yield is 5.29%. So someone who puts in $100,000 into that portfolio could really get about $5,000 of interest and dividends coming back to them, and now they can use that at the gas station, the grocery store, what have you. Now we've eaten up a lot of that inflation. We're only talking about absorbing a little bit in your monthly budget.
So if you can afford to take a little bit of risk, you can really at least kind of keep pace with inflation.
Right, that's the hope. That's the hope.
Okay, so what's the third way?
The third and final thing, Amber, again, we've talked about this a lot in our videos. It's our investment philosophy. We need guaranteed income in retirement, but long term, in order to beat inflation, you have to keep something invested in stocks, right? That's based on your own risk tolerance, of course, and your own retirement income plan. But we have to stay in stocks because stocks are moving ahead at 6, 8, 10, 12% returns. What that allows you to do is account for inflation over the long term, right? We're talking about inflation today, these scary numbers. How long is it going to be here? We don't know. So if we have another 5% inflation next year, where's that increase going to come from? Well, stocks will keep up with inflation. You can take a little bit of that stock portfolio, sell the gains, and now you have the income to offset inflation. So those three things: check your cash, make sure you only got 6 to 12 months there, and then put it in something like Amber said, something is better than zero. Look for yield. There's things out there that are giving yield 5-6% without a ton of risk. And finally, stay invested in stocks for the long term according to your risk profile.
So this can be a little bit tricky to do by yourself. So you really need a retirement professional to help you out with all of this. So if you need some help, you can book a 15-minute introductory phone call with us if you go to workwithnewgen.com.
Because you can make the rest of your life the best of your life.
Plan now to retire happy.